Welcome to another episode of the CLV Revolution. I'm today with George Kapernaros. We'll talk about Chapter 11. George is a former direct response copywriter turned marketing manager and now is the founder at YOCTO, an agile retention marketing agency that works with world-class direct-to-consumer and e-commerce companies. In this episode, we talked about staying strong, the 11th chapter that's focusing on the prevention campaigns. Stick around to understand why most businesses get customer lifetime value wrong, how a holistic view can shift your focus from short-term gains to long-term customer relationships, why the current resources in e-commerce education are fragmented and inadequate, and of course, here is honest and hopefully unbiased opinion about the CLV Revolution book, why good onboarding is the best prevention against customer churn, and how it's all part of an interlinked customer journey. Today, you'll get the practitioner's perspective. Hear from someone who's in the trenches working with brands in the e-commerce space every day. We are live. So, George, thanks a lot for joining me in the CLV Revolution virtual book launch tour.
Thank you so much for having me, Valentin.
Super. And today we are going to chat together about chapter 11. Just a second to get there. To do it, yeah. So, chapter 11 is about staying engaged. So, first of all, before diving into this chapter, why don't you tell us what do you think about customer lifetime value, and do you think it's and if you love it, or if you love the concept, or this, why do you do it?
I think first of all, before I talk about lifetime value, I want to talk about this book right here, and I want to say right off the bat that this is my personal opinion. Like, Valentin did not pay me to say this, but I genuinely think it's an excellent book. In fact, I think that we have e-commerce has been going on for a long time, but we lack proper education resources. And I think this book is a real milestone in regards to this, because what you've done is that you've collected a lot of info that is almost fragmented around the space, and you've brought it together in a system that is holistic. It talks about research, it talks about metrics, it talks about analytics, it talks about the products, it talks about like the jobs to be done, it talks about everything. And having everything all in one is really what you need to learn. So I highly recommend the book for everyone that really wants to mature their thinking and their way of doing things when it comes to e-commerce. Now, lifetime value, tricky metric, as you know. There's multiple ways to calculate it. Most people calculate lifetime revenue, really not lifetime value, but you know this better than me. You're going to listen to the book. And again, the book will help demystify some of these concepts. I think it's very important to be having this metric in mind, because it allows you to have a longer view of what you're doing. It moves you from short-term outcomes to longer-term outcomes. And ultimately, it makes you more of a customer-centric company, which is really the way to operate any modern business, I would say. Customer-centric in the sense of having people, your customers, as the center out of which everything else that you're doing is coming towards.
That's right. So, first of all, thanks a lot. I really appreciate your feedback about it. And second, I want to dive a little deeper into what you do. So, why? Of course, our listeners heard your let's say official bio so far, but tell us a bit about what you do on a daily basis. So, what you do and what YOCTO is doing.
So YOCTO is a retention marketing agency. We focus mostly in the e-commerce space. We do have clients outside the narrow, let's say, Shopify ecosystem, the CLV ecosystem, and so on. But for the most part, we do email and SMS for the brands that we work with. What I do personally these days is mostly focused on developing the company, really. new partnerships, developing the team, growing the team, etc. Usually what we do as part of our service is that we don't just stick to the email marketing or the CRM channel, but we try to have a more, let's say, holistic view of what the client does. And part of that is auditing their technology stack, bringing their tools together. Like, for example, if they're using subscriptions, we will be involved in that. We won't just be sending their emails. If they're using some sort of personalization, we're also going to be involved in that, and so on.
Yeah.
So that's what we do, yes.
Super. So, George, I consciously decided to have you here because we've had academics like Professor Michael Schrag and Peter Fader and people from the academics part, but you're a practitioner like myself. I think you are way better than myself in the sense that you are, let's say, in the trenches over there, working with way more customers than I do directly, as I have to do other stuff at Omniconvert. But I really appreciate your voice in the market, and basically I wanted to talk about chapter 11 with people that actually do this type of things. With you that you're basically all day long thinking about how to leverage email and SMS to stay engaged with the customer. So let's dive into the subject of let's say the prevention campaigns within the customer value optimization methodology. What do you think it's relevant, and what was relevant for you in from chapter 11?
So what I want to say here, and I think this is a really key point, and if anything, I would say that the listeners should keep this, is that what you see, like the customer journey really is a chain. It's interlinked. So when you see problems, for example, in your prevention stage of the customer journey, and we can talk about what this is in a second,
Yeah.
there's usually problems in the earlier parts of the chain. If you see issues in onboarding, you might have issues in how you frame your acquisition campaigns, and so on. So the best prevention really is good onboarding, and that's something that you do mention in the book. So before we get into it, I think it's also important to have like some common language, like some definitions. What do we mean by onboarding? What do we mean by prevention? What do we mean by acquisition, and so on? So I'll say what my take on this is. It might be slightly different than the book, but my take is that onboarding is about what happens after a customer has purchased, after they've received like transactional related communications, and now their role you have in onboarding is really getting them to experience the value proposition of the product. If they don't experience the value proposition of the product, there's a very high chance that they're going to fall into prevention. Eventually, they're going to lapse, and eventually, you're going to lose them. So the first step, really, when thinking about prevention, is onboarding. The previous step in the chain. And what you really want to do in onboarding, in my perspective, is help them understand how to use the product, why they should use the product, and then also incentivize them to actually use the product, because if they don't use the product, they can't experience the value prop. Once they've done that, the next step really is to have some sort of mechanism to understand what their experience has been like. And you have a great strategy in the book. I call it the customer experience flywheel, where you're checking after they've received the product, after the product has been delivered, how their experience has been. And what this allows you to do is basically tailor the preventive measures according to what their experience has been. So if we think about it that way, imagine that the product has the product has arrived, the user has received it. You have some sort of feedback mechanism, like an NPS type of mechanism. And then there's a few possible scenarios, really. Scenario number one is that they've had, for whatever reason, a bad experience. The product did not do its job. And your role as a company is really to debug what went wrong there, try to troubleshoot what went wrong there. And you can be very advanced in this. You can like tailor the response according to how much money they've spent, according to the frequency of orders, or you can really keep it simple and like just take the feedback that they give you and funnel it back to the product team, to the marketing team, and so on, and try to correct the reasons why they had a bad experience. So that's scenario number one. Scenario number two is that the product did its job, yes, but the job is complete, basically. And your role here really is to expose them to new use cases, expose them to new jobs, if you will. A way that I think is useful to do that is to have quizzes. So personalization experiences wherein you can help them find the right products by getting feedback from them on what they're actually looking for. Another way would be to simply tell them about new arrivals, new products, or curated collections, depending on what they've purchased before or what their interests were. Another possible scenario, the product did its job, but the need is ongoing, right? So the role you have there really is to eliminate any potential friction they have before they repurchase. And that might be a subscription, like auto replenishment. And the more easy you can make it for them, the more likely it is that they are going to keep fulfilling their need, doing the job, if you will, with your products. Another scenario, which I know you don't personally like, but I think it's a valid scenario, is that some people are just waiting for an offer before they rebuy. So eventually, you should be targeting those people, I think, with offers, like the group of people that are waiting for discounts. And a great way to frame a discount in that context would be to give it as credit rather than just a discount, credit on their next purchase.
Yeah. What I want to add here, George, is that many companies believe that the customers are onboarded after they shipped the product or after their customers got their product. But onboarding stops when you are sure that the customers got what they were looking for. And I had a great episode talking about chapter 1 with Professor Michael Schrage, and he actually said this as well, that it's not about the making more money. So customer lifetime value, it's a two-faceted thing, the value that you give and the value that you receive from your customers, which means your job in the onboarding, so the onboarding phase is finished when the customers extracted the value that they were after from the products that you've sold. And that can happen from the first purchase, or it can happen after the second or the third purchase. Because, for instance, let's presume that you are selling things like I don't know, supplements, or I don't know, food or coffee or tea or whatever. So these kind of things is not about the first usage of a product. So why do I buy supplements? Why do I buy, I don't know, omega-3, 6, whatever? Because I have some health issues maybe, and I want to get these supplements. So the onboarding is finished when the customer is already kicking the habit, right? So basically, it's the habit is being formed, and from there onwards, so after the onboarding is finished, what you want to make sure with the prevention is that you don't let them slip away. Let's say you don't lose them due to any kind of hiccups, and that's why, as you've said earlier, George, it's about the customer experience and troubleshooting what's wrong, right? So it's better to prevent than to cure.
Yes, and I think like this is a very big point, and often what I see, at least in clients we work with, brands are resistant to sending surveys or doing customer research because there's this impression that it can annoy people, that they don't like, and this couldn't be further from the truth, actually. People like when you are actually reaching out and trying to understand if they're happy, especially if after you do, you are actually taking the corrective measures to make them happy. So I think this is a huge misconception. And I would say that basically every single company, not just e-commerce companies, should have those mechanisms, those pulse checks, if you will, to try and understand, like, how is what I'm actually giving making people feel? Like, are they happy? Can it improve in some way? And sometimes they'll say things that are not realistic for you to correct. And that's fine, because there will be other times when there are like very easy corrections you can make, and those can have a big impact. The one thing I'll say, like a recurring pattern that we see, is that people often say that it's because of the price, like the price is too high. And I almost can't believe this, because those are the same people that will buy expensive cars, that will go on vacations, that will buy the latest iPhone and so on, right? So it's not so much about the price, it's more about the value perception, which again ties back into the survey, because if you don't know what they care about, how can you have the messaging that will ultimately increase the value perception of the products that you sell?
That's right. And one aspect that I want to touch a bit with you, George, because we've seen that, and maybe we can address this topic that I couldn't cover everything over there, even though, as you've said, I tried to compress everything I knew about e-commerce and a customer-centric approach into the book. But you're among the few marketers that get that customer experience is not to leave it to the customer support. And I want to talk a bit about where is the future from your perception. Where is the future in the sense of marketing? Because what I'm noticing is that email marketing needs data, needs customer research, needs insights about the fulfillment, about the product quality, about the issues that the customers are facing, in order to be highly relevant and impactful as well.
Yes, the data is for sure a big component of this. When thinking about, I don't know, like what products to upsell or what products to cross-sell, I think two very important things to track is, first of all, again, like the NPS, how good is the experience that the product gives the customer? Because there will be products that might sell well, but actually give a garbage experience to the customer, and you shouldn't be actively promoting them, probably, right? So like, it's illogical to be leading with them. If anything, you should perhaps remove them from the store eventually, or try to improve them in some way. And another really important factor is like the product combinations. People that buy X tend to buy Y. And if the catalog is small, you can try to like kind of wing it in a sense, like be logical about it, what product makes sense with what other product. But if there's a lot of products, I think you need some sort of machine learning for that. And there's many technologies that can help you like pull reports on how to best combine the products. I'm not going to mention specific technologies, but there's many in the Shopify ecosystem and beyond. So I would say those are the two main like metrics that matter. Like, is the product giving a good experience? And then what combinations of products ultimately make the most sense? Another point, because you spoke about what's the future. I haven't spoken about this publicly before, but I think it's kind of obvious to everyone that's paying attention that we are becoming more and more visual, shorter attention spans, like video. Even now, what we do now, it could be a text transcript, but it is actually video conversation. So I think one technology that really will be helpful in regards to customer experience is video. There's shoppable video technologies that can visualize the value of the products, visualize how to use the products, like basically streamline the information transfer, if you will, from the brand to the customer, and also exposing them to more products at the same time. So I think that's something that's going to be important increasingly in the future. How can we take those emails, for example, that might say like, hey, like this is how to use the product, and there's a long text or some PDF, and then make this into a visual and easy experience that customers can just understand in a snap.
Yeah, I just had a conversation about this with Claudio, which is a friend of mine from here. He's running Video Wise, and
I know him, yes.
yeah, I've seen that indeed there is this is catching up really, really fast. And I think video is going to be a part of communicating and making the digital experience more humane, because basically
Yes,
that's how one of the benefits of the video is that you can see a human being over there, you can see the product moving, is not something very static, is not is not feeling so strange, or let's say not staged, like a staged
yes,
experience where it's on the e-commerce. While if you can see people which are actually using the product, or if you can see user generated content which is video, then you can relate way better with the products that you're after. uh,
yes.
I want to touch on another subject, George, which is the in terms of the prevention. I've seen that many, let's say the go-to strategy is to throw discounts at at your client base. And as I've stated over there, I think offering better terms, offering better let's say prices to your customers, it's of course a normal expectation. While a problem that I'm seeing is that there are companies which are setting up their, let's say, default approach is to let's say destroy their margin gradually. And I want to have your opinion into this. When are discounts good? When are discounts bad? When and how to craft the right price so that you can improve the lifetime value down the line.
So I want to say right off the bat that I think a discount is a tool, right? And just like you can't like blame the spoon for not being suitable for eating steak, you can't really blame the discount for not being the best strategy every time, right? Like it depends on what you're doing. So that's kind of my perspective on discounts. I think that they're useful. They've been around for hundreds of years. Coupons, like it's a valid tool. It's a lever to increase conversion rates, and a lot of people actually do wait for discounts, as I said. So I don't think it's a bad thing to be doing. What's actually bad, is using discounts because it's easy, because you haven't really done the research to see what customers care about, so that you can produce content that might add value to their life. What's bad is starting with discounts, because as I said before, there's possible scenarios, right? Like they did the job and then they're looking for a new job, really. You need to
Yeah,
expose them to new jobs. They did the job, but they had a bad experience. So like starting with the discount is the problem, not the discount per se. So if you think about timing, let's say, what I think you should be doing is finding the median between orders, not the average, but the median, so that you can control for outliers. And also, some companies have upsells immediately after someone purchases. You should probably be excluding those that just purchased, because they will change your data. But nonetheless, find the median between orders, and the
yeah,
discounts should be sent after the user hasn't repurchased with your normal communication. So it should be almost like, how do I say, a last attempt, if you will, to get them to buy back, rather than the default attempt at the beginning.
yeah.
I think that personal communication, a sense of caring for the customer, is a much preferable start than like starting right off the bat with discounts.
That's right. Super. Then, George, we are fastly approaching the end of our session today, and I want to give you the chance to say, I don't know, your last, your famous last words for our audience about what they should be doing to improve their customer lifetime value, or anything that you find it valuable, and then let us know, or let everyone know, where they can reach out to you.
You can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm very active there. It's the best way to connect with me directly. I respond to everybody. So if you're interested in talking, you can just send me a message and I'll happily talk to you. In regards to my last word, what I'd say depends on the company size, really. But for bigger companies, what I would say is that you need to have buy-in from everybody, because to do this, improve the lifetime value, there's a lot of moving parts. It can't be just the email marketer. It can't be just the CMO, even like the CEO. Everybody needs to be on board. So read the book and then maybe buy a copy for them too, so that they all have the common language that you can understand, and then hopefully work towards better outcomes. That's kind of my advice. Buy in. You need every stakeholder to be involved. And then for smaller companies, do research. Do research. Don't assume things. Don't expect to be your customers, because you're not your customers. You see things differently. And what you think matters for them is not what actually matters for them. And if you don't do the research, you can never know the why behind the what of what they do. And if you don't know the why, you can look at analytics all day long, but you'll never know how to improve the metrics unless you're lucky. So those are my tips.
Super. So, George, thanks a lot for joining me into this session and into this journey in the CLV revolution. And as for you out there, thanks for watching, and we'll see each other in the next episode, where we'll be speaking about chapter 12, which is about the reactivation campaigns.